Did you know that Saudi Arabia imports sand and camels from Australia, which is over 11,000 kilometers away? Sounds bizarre, but there's a reason. Saudi Arabia is in the middle of a massive construction boom, and for that, they need a very specific kind of sand. Not the rough desert type, but fine beach sand that's been smoothed over thousands of years by water. Their own deserts don't have the right kind, but Australia has plenty. As for the camels, the British brought them to Australia from India and Afghanistan in the 19th century for transportation. When vehicles took over, the camels were released into the wild and multiplied rapidly. Now, Australia has one of the largest wild camel populations in the world. Meanwhile, in Saudi Arabia, camels are in short supply because they're not only a national symbol, they're also a popular dish. It's a bit of a sad fact, but polar bears and penguins have never met in the wild. They live on opposite ends of the planet with zero chance their paths will ever cross. It's a shame, really. Their unlikely friendship could have created one epic animal. And since we're talking about biology, here's something wild. If you took all the DNA in your body and stretched it out end to end, it would reach all the way to Pluto and back. That's about 8.5 billion kilometers. But maybe don't try it. It's not exactly a survival-friendly experiment. Here's a handy tip for underground surgeons, or, hypothetical cannibals. If you happen to remove someone's liver, purely for science, of course, you can actually split it in two and it will still work. The human liver is one of the few organs capable of regeneration. As long as even 1/7 of it remains, it can grow back to its full size over time. But remember, bigger doesn't always mean better. Case in point, the lighter was actually invented before the match. The earliest version was massive, more like a city-burning contraption than something you'd keep in your pocket. It looked terrifying and never caught on. The first modern-sized lighter appeared around 1823. Just 4 years later, a pharmacist named John Walker invented the match using yellow phosphorus. The fumes could knock you out cold, but back then, everyone was too busy smoking opium to care. Let's talk about animals again. Platypuses don't have nipples. Instead, they sweat milk. Yeah, that's probably the most unsettling fact you'll hear today. And here's something that might surprise you. Ponies aren't baby horses. They're actually a whole separate group of breeds. They were once used to work in tight, narrow coal mines, and nowadays they're mostly raised for kids' equestrian sports or kept as pets and circus animals. As for ostriches, when they get scared, they don't bury their heads in the sand. Instead, they sprint away at up to 95 kilometers per hour. That whole head in the sand myth comes from ancient Rome. Roman soldiers returning from their campaigns brought back all kinds of wild tales, both about people and exotic animals they saw while, liberating cities. Chances are they saw ostriches lowering their heads to the ground. But it's not fear. Some say ostriches do this to detect ground vibrations, sensing whether danger is approaching. Others believe it's because ostriches swallow stones to help them digest food, and sometimes they have to dig deep in the sand to find the good stuff. A few kilograms of it per day, in fact. People are actually more likely to drown in deserts than die of dehydration. Sounds crazy, right? But nothing's scarier than a desert rainstorm. When water hits the sand, it can create violent mud flows strong enough to wipe out not just people, but entire buildings. Still, despite how many deserts we have, Earth is also covered in a lot of green. In fact, some scientists believe there may be more trees on Earth than stars in the Milky Way galaxy. Sounds like science fiction, but it might be true. To be fair, it's still just an estimate. No one in their right mind is going to count every single tree on the planet, and it's not like we can count every star either. But current estimates say there are somewhere between 100 and 400 billion stars in our galaxy, and around 3 trillion trees on Earth. Feel free to double-check if you've got time to spare. Humans have a strange habit of inventing things that can kill them, and they've been doing it for centuries. Take the famous Italian firearms company Beretta, for example. It was founded all the way back in 1526 during the Renaissance. Their weapons first made history in 1571, when Beretta barrels played a key role in defeating the Ottoman Empire at the Battle of Lepanto. So, if you ever get shot with a Beretta, consider it death by historical legacy. Speaking of death, every culture seems to have its own favorite method of execution. In France, it was the guillotine. Sounds like some medieval relic, right? But in reality, the last time it was used was in 1977, the same year the first Star Wars movie came out. Just let that sink in. One of the biggest myths out there is that cockroaches can survive a nuclear blast. The truth? They're tough little creeps, sure. They can go days without food and even live up to 2 weeks without a head. But they're not immortal. Back in 1963, scientists tested how insects react to radiation. Turns out, roaches were among the first to drop dead. At 6,400 rads, 93% of them didn't make it. Yes, that's still way more than a human can handle, but hey, it's comforting to know something can kill them. And one last thing to remember, without water and air, you can survive right up until the moment you don't. Thanks for watching. See you again soon.